So the first topic for today's discussion is regarding this news article which appeared on the page number 17 of the Hindu. This news was also presented in an express, right? So in this news article, the Reserve Bank of India has tightened the norms to regulate banks and non-banking financial companies to prevent evergreening of loans. To prevent evergreening of loans via investing in alternative investment funds. So as we proceed further, this topic will be more clear, right? Now, before seeing all these terms like what is evergreening of loans, what is alternative investment funds, right? So let's understand this with the help of this example. Let's see a basic concept regarding it. Say there is a company ABC Limited, right? So it has taken a loan from bank. So if any company takes a loan from bank, that company has to pay back the principal amount, right? And its interest also. So this company has to pay back to the bank the principal amount taken and interest also, right? But say in the scenario, if this company fails to pay its principal amount and interest, so this loan becomes stressed. This becomes a stressed loan, right? And now what happens is that sometimes bank again give loan to this company, right? So bank can again give loan for the second time to this company in order that this company can even pay interest. Now as this company is not able to pay principal and interest for the first time, the second time loan will ensure that at least this company pays interest, right, to the banks. But as we know that this kind of mechanism is not healthy, right? So Reserve Bank of India has given guidelines to prevent this evergreening of loans, right? So this is the first thing which you should know, that Reserve Bank of India has given guideline to prevent evergreening of loans. Now there is a question that why do banks do it? Why do banks promote evergreening of loans, right? For this, let's understand one more concept, which is provision coverage ratio, right? Provision coverage ratio, right? Now see what happens if a bank give loan to a company. Say bank has given 100 crore loans to a company. For this 100 crore loan, the bank has to keep some amount with it, right? So bank has to reserve some amount from the loan amount which it has given to the any company, right? So this reserve amount is known as provision coverage ratio. Now it depends. Now it has different criteria based on the quality of assets the bank has. Now when a bank, this is the balance sheet of bank, right? Balance sheet of bank. If we talk about assets of the bank, loan is an asset of the bank, right? So this asset of the bank is classified into various categories. The first category of asset for the bank is standard asset. Now what is a standard asset? It is a functional asset. A functional loan, any loan which is paying back its interest, right? That is a standard asset. But for this loan, the bank has a provision coverage ratio. A bank has to maintain 0.25 to 0.40% of that loan amount, right? In the terms of provisioning ratio, bank has to set it aside. Now for the second type of asset category is substandard asset. Now what is a substandard asset? When any NPA, substandard asset is NPA with a bank for 12 months. Now what is NPA? NPA means non-performing asset. That any loan which becomes non-performing for more than 90 days, right? So it becomes an NPA for the bank, non-performing asset. That bank amount, that loan amount is not able to pay interest to the bank. Then it becomes a non-performing asset. If any bank has non-performing asset for 12 months, that becomes a substandard asset for that bank, right? That loan becomes. Now for it, there is a ratio. Bank has to ensure 15 to 25% of that amount for the duration of the default, right? In terms of provision coverage ratio. I hope you understand it now. And similarly, there is another criteria which is doubtful asset. Now, what is a doubtful asset? Any substandard asset, any asset which is classified as substandard asset for more than 12 months, right? Then it becomes a doubtful asset. Now, for it, the PCR is 25 to 100%. The requirement is 25 to 100%, right? And finally, there is a last criteria which is loss asset. Loss asset is an asset with the bank or a loan with the bank which cannot be recovered, right? So it is a loss asset for the bank. For that, the PCR requirement is 100% with the bank, right? Now you see, what is the concept of evergreening of banks? Why do bank do it? In order to prevent keeping money aside as PCR. So bank will not show that loan as substandard asset, and that's why bank shows it as a normal asset, right? In order to save PCR. This is why banks do evergreening of loans. Now this is one concept. But let's understand another concept, which is indirect evergreening of loans. Now there is a second type of evergreening of loans. Now in this type, the bank is not giving money to that company directly, but bank is giving money to that company indirectly. How? Bank is investing in a mutual fund or in an alternate investment fund, because mutual fund is also a type of alternate investment fund, right? So bank is investing money in a mutual fund, and that mutual fund in turn is investing money in that debtor company ABC, right? Now bank is not directly giving loan to it, but indirectly bank is giving loan to it via mutual fund, right? Now our news article is regarding the second type of indirect type of evergreening, that RBI has given guidelines to banks to prevent investment in alternate investment funds, right? So this is what the news article is about. Now based on this information, let us solve this question. Now why this topic is important is because UPSC asks questions regarding the monetary policy of RBI and associated terms with it, right? As in the year 2018, we found this particular question. Now let us solve this practice question, which says that provisioning coverage ratio refers to the percentage of bad assets that the banks need to set aside. Now as we saw this is a correct statement, right? The second statement says that bank do not need to maintain provisioning coverage for written off assets. Now there is one more term, which is written off assets. So sometimes in news you have seen that bank has written off loan for XYZ company, right? That is sometimes bank write off loans. Now writing off loan does not mean that bank has set aside its legal accountability for that loans. It doesn't mean that. It still the bank has legal right to procure that loan, right? But it is just an accounting mechanism in which the banks want to clear their balance sheet, right? So in order that the balance sheet of the bank looks clean, debt free, then at that time bank can write off some bad loans. Okay, it is just an accounting mechanism. So in that case, why do bank do it? That if they write off loans, they do not have to maintain a provision coverage ratio, right? So this statement says that bank do not need to maintain provision coverage ratio for written off assets. This is also a correct statement. Now as this question asked, which of the following statements is or are correct? Our correct answer would be both 1 and 2. Now let's move on to our second question for the day. This is regarding this news article which was about lumpy-skin disease, right? Now for this, government has given some data regarding the death due to lumpy-skin disease for the year 2022 and 2023, right? But there is a parliamentary panel which has questioned the accuracy of this data, citing that the number would be even more, right? Now see, let's understand a few facts about lumpy skin disease. Lumpy skin disease basically affects cattle, right? it affects bovine cattle, cows, buffaloes, right? And now we know that these cattle are important for agriculture sector, as these are milch cattle, right? Now, how is this disease caused? This is caused by a virus, right? This is a viral disease. Now, what happens in this disease? In this disease, there are, as the name implies, lumpy skin disease. It is infection in the lymph nodes of any cattle, and because of which there are some lymph, they occur, some protrusion, some kind of protuberance that occurs in the skin of the disease, right? Some kind of lump occur in the skin of this cattle, and these lumps, these are the infection in the lymph node. And apart from this, other symptoms include high fever to that cattle, right? And it also causes the signs of depression in the cattle, excessive salivation, and finally there is a high morbidity rate or the death rate. And finally, the cattle can stop producing milk, right? It can stop producing milk, and there can also be death of that cattle, right? Now this is about this disease. If we talk about how is this disease spread, this viral disease can either be spread by vectors. What are these vectors? These vectors can be insects, right? Like mosquitoes, like lice, like termites. So this can be spread by these infected mosquitoes. Also, this is a contagious disease. If one cattle is infected and the saliva of that cattle or other bodily fluids of that cattle come up in the fodder or other surroundings, right? Then other cattle can also be infected. So we can say this is a contagious disease which can spread through the bodily secretions of cattle, right? Also, one more point which you should know, that this disease is zoonotic, and this disease is not a zoonotic disease. This means that this disease cannot be spread from animals to humans, right? So in case if we drink milk from a cattle who is suffering from lumpy skin disease, in that case humans will not be infected, right? It does not spread from animals to humans, right? So these are some of the facts which are associated with this disease. Now based on this information, let us solve this practice question. And why we have taken this question is because UPSC has asked questions regarding various diseases in the science and tech section. Now let's solve this question, which says that lumpy skin disease is a bacterial skin disease transmitted by vectors affecting cattle and buffaloes only. Now, this is an incorrect statement, as we saw that this is a viral disease and not a bacterial disease. The second statement says that it spreads by blood feeding insects, including mosquitoes, flies, and lice. So this is a correct statement, as it is a vector-borne disease. Now third statement says that it infects humans through the consumption of milk or meat. Now as I told you that it does not pass on to humans, right? So this statement is incorrect. Now as the question asked, which of the statement given above is or are correct? Our correct answer would be option C, that is 2 only, right? Now let's move on to our final MCQ for the day, which is based on this news article which appeared on The Hindu, right? So in this news article is regarding the Places of Worship Act, and in this news article, the Allahabad High Court has said that the religious nature, it was referring to the Gyanvapi complex, right? It is in Varanasi. So the court said that the nature of the religious nature of Gyanvapi complex can only be decided by a trial in the court, right? So it opens possibility for trial regarding this dispute in the courts, right? And now based on this news article, let's understand what is Places of Worship Act, right? So Places of Worship Act was enacted in the year 1991, right? So what was the primary purpose of enacting this act? The primary purpose was to ensure that any place of worship, the religious nature of any place of worship is not changed, right? The religious nature of any place of worship is not changed. That is, it is for the preservation of religious nature of that place of worship, right? And for that, the cutoff date was 15 August 1947, right? That is after which, after this cutoff date, the religious nature of any place of worship would be the same. It won't be changed, right? If it is a temple, it would be a temple, or a mosque, it would be a mosque, including others, right? So this is what act is, but there are certain exemptions regarding some places of worship. And what are these exemptions? Exemptions are given to some monuments or ancient or historic monuments which are covered by the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958. The monuments which are covered by this act are exempted under the Places of Worship Act, right? Also, there are certain provisions, important of which are that in any case, if any dispute can be settled amicably or in a friendly way, then that monument is also excluded from this Places of Worship Act, right? Now, an important thing which the High Court also said was that this act is broad in nature, right? And this act does not define the term religious character, though it said preservation of religious character, but there is not a precise definition of religious character under this act. So, in this act, the places of worship could include a temple, mosque, gurudwara, church, and after it, it can also include a monastery or any other place of religious worship, right? So the nature of the religious character of these places of worship is not defined under this act, right? So it is a broad interpretation. Now, based on these facts, let us solve this question. The question says that the act bars the conversion of a place of worship and maintenance of religious character as it existed on the commencement of the act. Now, this is an incorrect statement. This is because the act bars the conversion of a place of worship and to maintain its religious character not from the date of commencement of the act. The act commenced in the year 1991, but the cutoff date is from 15 August 1947, right? So that's why this statement is incorrect. Now the second statement says it recognizes only temple, mosque, gurudwara and church as a place of worship. Now this is an incorrect statement, as we already saw that the place of worship can be other places of worship apart from these four places, right? So the correct answer for this MCQ would be neither one nor two, right? Option D.